like because I started off in a time where it was all ciphers that were inside clubs or jams. That was the only place you saw breaking, right? There was a battle like in '96, right? I wasn't there, but it was like called the Zubar battle. This battle was Baggage Chicks, Intricate, all these other crews, and this certain battle traveled around the whole world. Because Crazy Legs was the host, and he filmed it and he taped it, and then he sold the video like everywhere. So everyone saw this battle like back in the day. Back then, like footage was gold. You know what I mean? It was like if you had like a videotape with footage, you'd be like, oh my gosh, you know, and you'd watch that and study that tape for hours. You and your whole crew. You know what I mean? Like, and so whoever had the most access to videos were like killing it, right? Because they had so much access, inspiration, right? And so, so in '99, I was like, my mother, she opened up a banquet hall, right? You know, and the banquet hall wasn't doing well because it was in the middle of like nowhere. It was like in an industrial area, and right in the middle of the industrial area, there's like this banquet hall. You know what I mean? It used to be like a Knights of Columbus Secret Society banquet hall or something like that. So it was like, you know, it was pretty hidden. And she was like, oh, you know, if you can help me by, you know, maybe put on an event or whatever. And the only thing I knew was breaking, so I was like, okay, I told her I'll think about it, right? And I was just like, that'd be a good idea, right? Because there was no competitions, there was nothing going on, you know what I mean? And I knew there was a lot of little kids that break, but these kids couldn't go to clubs, you know, and some of them were like all in high school, and you know, and they weren't in that gang scene, so they wouldn't be able to go to these hip hop jams and see that kind of stuff, right? So I told one of my homeboys, who was a good friend of mine, a guy named Astro, I said, yo, you want to throw a competition? He's like, sure. I go, okay, yo, go talk and see if you can get 8 crews to enter, and if you can, right, we'll throw a jam. So he talked to all these crews, and it's basically what I thought the scene needed, right? I thought that they needed a place where they can go, where it's just them, they're amongst their peers, and they can do what they do and showcase their talent. So after he goes, yeah, I got 8 crews that are gonna do it. They want to do this, right? Because there was no battles, right? So I said, okay. I called it back to the underground, right? Bringing it back to the underground. So the way I did it was like on a regular crap piece of flyer. I wanted to make it like you know, like really underground. Because back then when there was like jams, you'd get a piece of paper with like writing on it, and so it would be photocopied, and it'd be like, there's this jam going on, not a b-boy jam, just like this party going on, $2, this guy's spinning, whatever, and people would look and be like, yo, I'm gonna go, all right, you know what I mean? So I did the exact same thing, kept it really underground and budget, and you know, it was one of the best battles. Like, it was crazy, like, you know, like there was like so many kids that came out, like, I mean, like high school kids, and they're all cool kids, you know, cool high school kids, and they all battled, right, and the crowd was hype. And then Migas and my old rival came with like a couple of guys, and they challenged my crew, and that was like a crazy battle, and I really brought it to him, this battle, you know what I mean? And that's what really made this hype around breaking. So what I think is the most important is to have someone who is someone who's like a figure in the scene who kind of knows what the scene needs, you know what I mean? Like, not like, because nowadays I think people are always like, I'm just gonna throw a jam, a competition, and usually scenes are like oversaturated with competitions. It's like and everyone thinks, oh, I'm gonna do it like the way the standard is, you know what I mean? But the best way is to like really be like, what does the scene need? You know what I mean? Like, because everyone wants to have a time to shine, you know what I mean? So you have to be like, okay, I think the kids need to come up, so I'm gonna throw you have to throw a battle specifically for what the scene needs. So if there's a good top rockers, you'll be like, I'm gonna throw a small competition plus a top rocking battle, and then I'm gonna throw a footwork competition, or I'm gonna throw threads competition, like whatever you see, like, you know, you need to have a key figure who understands the scene, kind of like a mother, you know what I mean, or a father, I guess. You know, actually fathers think of the overall thing, but mothers think of the details. So you have to think of the details of what the scene needs, and then you nurture the scene by throwing those events and throwing things. Because like later on, I realized that, like, you know, I threw so many underground jams and they were fun, but then I guess it started dying out because there was a new wave of kids that were coming in. Like, they were all like not so thuggy cool kids, you know what I mean, right? They were like more like good boys, and you know, they, like, you know, back in the day people were more raw, right? You know, they were like, when people were battling, they were like, oh yeah, in your face, like they'll be like, you know, they'll be like screaming out like that, like, you're like, oh, and they'll be hitting the walls, and they'll just be like, oh, like it was the energy was like a fight, like when you saw a fight and people are like, oh, and someone gets punched in the face, everyone's like, oh, and they're like giving that energy to going on. But it started turning out with kids who were like, oh, I just want to do something cool, and then maybe people were gonna cheer. And so the vibe kind of like was going away and was dying. And then at the same time, like there was more competitions that started popping up around the world, and I was just like, I want to take it to a level where it's like professional competitions now. So I knew that I was just like kind of like my skills as in business isn't as high, but I know the scene, I know what it needs. So I brought in someone who was younger than me, my partner Lee Pham, because he was a really organized, smart kid, right? So I said, okay, I'll take care of like all the ideas and tell what's going on, and you just manage the details that need to to fit the pieces. And so we threw this a whole bunch of series of events, and each event got bigger and bigger and bigger until we started throwing the best jams in Toronto. So I think that's like the most important for scenes, to have someone who's not just, I'm gonna throw a jam, right? Because throwing a jam is just throwing a jam, but I'm gonna think of what the scene needs. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, I'm gonna like highlight the good parts of it and let each person shine in what they need to do. And if there's something that we're missing, I'm gonna throw a competition for that to get people to say, okay, I want to be good at that. Because every b-boy is different, right? So you have to know, what the scene needs and how to like draw out the best out of everybody.